At precisely 2:35 in the afternoon, as the Persian Gulf waters sparkled under the blazing sun, 8 Iranian MiG-29 fulcrums suddenly burst through the cloudless sky, descending to 2,500 feet. Crystal clear visibility, perfect afternoon conditions, no identification transponders broadcasting, no diplomatic channels activated, just the screaming roar of Soviet-era turbofan engines pushed to maximum combat thrust, vectoring directly toward the center of American naval power, the nuclear-powered supercarrier USS Abraham Lincoln. These pilots operated under a fatal misconception. They believed that an 8-ship formation flying in broad daylight, aggressive posture, would force Washington to hesitate, would challenge American control over waters Tehran claims through sheer rhetoric and historical delusion. But there existed a brutal truth these aviators failed to comprehend. They weren't the predators in this engagement. They were flying straight into an execution chamber constructed from advanced steel, nuclear propulsion, and targeting systems precise to within centimeters. Before those MiG-29s had even lifted their landing gear off the tarmac at Bandar Abbas Air Base, they were already locked in the crosshairs of the most sophisticated floating weapons platform in human history. Inside the USS Abraham Lincoln's Combat Direction Center, the appearance of 8 hostile radar contacts didn't trigger alarm. It triggered protocol, a $13 billion machinery of destruction activating with clinical precision. Welcome to the moment when Iranian arrogance collided with absolute American naval supremacy. Over the next 18 minutes, we'll examine how the United States Navy transformed a reckless provocation into a textbook demonstration of aerial combat dominance. Before we continue, drop a comment below telling us which country you're watching from. Witness the Titan of the Waves, USS Abraham Lincoln. This isn't simply an aircraft carrier. This is a $13 billion nuclear-powered fortress representing American technological supremacy made manifest. To contextualize that investment, $13 billion could fund the entire annual defense budgets of multiple nations combined. Yet Washington concentrated it all into a single platform designed to project overwhelming force anywhere on Earth's oceans, displacing 100,000 tons fully loaded. This Nimitz-class behemoth operates as a mobile sovereign territory, American soil floating directly offshore from the world's most volatile regions, unshakable, uncompromising. At its core burn 2 Westinghouse A4W nuclear reactors generating continuous 550 megawatts of electrical power. This isn't merely propulsion. This fuels an entire combat ecosystem capable of sustaining high-intensity operations for 25 years without requiring a single drop of external fuel. While adversaries struggle with petroleum logistics, fuel convoys, supply vulnerabilities, the Abraham Lincoln simply exists as an eternal presence, ready to deliver precision strikes to any coordinates within a 750-mile operational radius. Inside that hardened steel hull, 5,500 personnel, elite sailors and aviators trained to operate weapon systems adversaries witness only in technical journals and intelligence briefings. Every inch of Lincoln's flight deck serves a lethal purpose. She carries 75 combat aircraft including the apex predator known as the FA-18EF Super Hornet. The Lincoln doesn't merely transit the Strait of Hormuz. She owns it, controls it, dominates it completely. It borders on absurd that Tehran believed 8 aging MiG-29s could threaten this manifestation of superpower projection. Challenging the USS Abraham Lincoln with Soviet-era aircraft currently deteriorating from maintenance neglect and spare part shortages compares to attacking a steel fortress with wooden arrows. This wasn't a military confrontation. This was a technical humiliation waiting to unfold, delivered by the United States to anyone harboring delusions about overturning the established maritime order. The critical question emerges: why? Why did Tehran commit 8 of its frontline pilots to a scenario where defeat was mathematically predetermined before they even started engines? The answer resides not in military logic, but in catastrophic strategic hallucination by the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps command structure. For months, Iranian propaganda apparatus had broadcast narratives of declining American power, a weakening empire with aircraft carriers portrayed as oversized, vulnerable, slow-moving targets. They required a symbolic gesture to satisfy domestic audiences and intimidate regional neighbors. So they gambled 8 pilots' lives on a wager they possessed zero probability of winning. The IRGC leadership believed they could exploit the afternoon timing and the Zagros mountain terrain for tactical concealment. They theorized that by maintaining low altitude and exploiting radar gaps, 8 MiG-29s could approach Lincoln close enough to create an international incident, forcing American diplomatic concessions. But here reality diverges sharply from Tehran's fantasy. They attempted to play tactical games against an adversary capable of seeing through both distance and deception with effortless clarity, while Iranian pilots prepared for what they imagined would be heroic propaganda footage. Every single movement at Bandar Abbas had been transmitted to U.S. Central Command surveillance centers 90 minutes prior to takeoff. Every MiG-29 engine start, every refueling operation, every pre-flight check, all of it crystal clear on intelligence analyst screens at multiple American command centers. The IRGC's fundamental error wasn't their obsolete hardware, it was catastrophically underestimating American deterrent resolve and the sophistication of U.S. Navy rules of engagement. They believed American engagement protocols represented a straitjacket preventing preemptive action. They thought they could maneuver around the giant without consequences. Fatal naivety. They forgot that a superpower's restraint isn't weakness. It's a calculated choice. And as those 8 MiG-29s accelerated toward USS Abraham Lincoln in broad afternoon sunlight, they weren't simply entering controlled airspace. They were stepping through the threshold of technological annihilation. This wasn't a military mission. This was a suicide protocol written by commanders sitting in air-conditioned offices in Tehran, perfectly willing to sacrifice their aviators for 30 seconds of state television footage. When the NSPY-1 phased array radar aboard the Ticonderoga-class cruiser USS Lake Champlain detected first contacts at 58 nautical miles distance, the fate of those 8 Iranian pilots transferred from human decision to algorithmic processing. Within precisely 2.1 seconds faster than human reaction time, threat data cascaded across the entire carrier strike group's synchronized network. This is where the merciless efficiency of the Aegis combat system assumes control. No panic, no debate about intentions, only millions of lines of code processing at computational speed, transforming 8 MiG-29s into solved mathematical problems. The system calculated with surgical precision that hostile formation would reach effective weapons range in exactly 13 minutes, 28 seconds. 13 minutes. For civilians, barely enough time for lunch. But in U.S. Navy operational tempo, an eternity to prepare for systematic elimination of threats. The entire strike group transformed from routine patrol posture into total combat readiness. Destroyers USS Stetham and USS Gridley immediately activated their phased array radars, achieving solid locks on every target. Vertical launch system cells hummed as hatches opened. SM-2 missiles ready to launch, capable of intercepting targets 90 miles away in under 2 minutes of flight time. The disparity here transcends hardware specifications. It's about cognitive dominance. While Iranian pilots sweated in cramped cockpits, wrestling with mechanical instruments and attempting formation discipline according to 1980s Soviet doctrine, they were already enveloped by an invisible electromagnetic storm. American electronic warfare suites harvested every signal emitted by the MiG's radars, analyzing frequencies, cataloging vulnerabilities, preparing instant suppression responses. The MiG-29s pressed forward, pilots believing they projected aggression and determination. Unaware that on tactical displays inside Lincoln's Combat Direction Center, they appeared merely as red icons awaiting deletion. At 2:41 p.m., 6 minutes after initial detection, the Iranian formation reached 35 nautical miles from the carrier, close enough to trigger automatic defensive protocols, close enough for the kill chain to fully activate. Admiral Marcus Hendricks, commanding the Abraham Lincoln Strike Group, faced a decision tree with predetermined branches. Iranian aircraft maintaining hostile approach vector. No response to radio challenges. Weapons pylons visible on surveillance imagery. Intent, clearly aggressive. His authorization came in clipped, professional terminology transmitted across encrypted channels. Flight operations, you are cleared to launch CAP Intercept. Engage per ROE. Weapons tight, unless hostile action confirmed. At 2:43 p.m., the Lincoln's flight deck erupted into precisely choreographed chaos. 4 FA-18E Super Hornets already on 5-minute alert status began launching in rapid sequence. Call signs, Viper 1 through Viper 4. Each aircraft armed with 4 AIM-IM-1220 AMRAM missiles and 2 AIM-9X Sidewinders. Pilots, graduates of the Navy Fighter Weapons School, Top Gun, with cumulative 8,000 hours of combat flight time between them. Launch interval, 45 seconds between aircraft. Total time from go order to 4 jets, airborne under 4 minutes. That's the difference between training exercises and operational readiness. The Super Hornets climbed to 18,000 feet, activating APG-79 AESA radars, each radar capable of tracking 128 targets simultaneously while maintaining stealth characteristics that rendered them nearly invisible to the MiG-29's obsolete 9 radar systems. Viper 1, flight lead, immediately established tactical geometry. Rather than rushing directly toward the Iranian formation, he positioned his element north, using the sun's afternoon glare as natural camouflage while achieving optimal firing position. At 2:46 p.m., Viper flight achieved radar lock on all 8 MiG-29s from 40 nautical miles distance. The Iranians remained oblivious, their radar warning receivers silent. They had no idea 4 American fighters had them bracketed. Viper 1 transmitted back to Lincoln. Lincoln control Viper 1. 8 bandits visual on scope. Formation integrity poor. No evasive action detected. Awaiting engagement authorization. Response from the carrier. Viper 1, weapons tight, close to visual range. Establish identification. Prepare for hostile engagement if ROE criteria met. The Super Hornets accelerated, closing at combined speed of 1,200 knots. At 12 nautical miles separation, Viper 1 achieved visual contact with the Iranian formation silhouetted against the afternoon sky. What he observed confirmed tactical assessments: loose formation, uncoordinated flight paths, aircraft clearly struggling with outdated avionics. This wasn't a professional strike package. This was barely controlled chaos. At 2:48 p.m., the lead MiG-29 made his fatal error. He activated his weapons radar, painting the USS Abraham Lincoln. That radar emission constituted hostile intent under U.S. Navy engagement protocols. Viper 1's radar warning receiver confirmed enemy radar in attack mode targeting the carrier. The decision required 1 second. Lincoln control, Viper 1. Bandits are spiking the carrier, requesting weapons free. Admiral Hendrick's response came without hesitation. Viper 1, you are weapons free. Engage. At precisely 2:49 p.m., Viper 1's finger depressed the weapon release. An AIM-120 AMRAAM dropped from its rail, rocket motor igniting instantly. The missile accelerated to Mach 4 within 3 seconds, streaking across the cloudless afternoon sky like a white contrail of inevitability. For the Iranian pilot who had activated his targeting radar, his radar warning receiver suddenly screamed continuous tone, not a warning anymore, a death notification. He attempted defensive maneuvers, hard brake left, deploying chaff cartridges desperately. But the AMRAAM isn't deceived by Cold War-era countermeasures. It's designed with one purpose: find and destroy with absolute certainty. Impact came at 20:49 and 18 seconds. The missile's 40-pound blast fragmentation warhead detonated within 2 meters of the MiG-29's starboard engine. Brilliant orange fireball erupted in the clear afternoon sky visible for miles. Hydraulic systems severed, fuel lines ruptured, control surfaces frozen. The Soviet-built fighter transformed from functional aircraft to uncontrollable wreckage in 0.4 seconds. The pilot's only survival option: ejection. He pulled the handle. The K-36 ejection seat fired with 17 Gs of acceleration force, compressing his spine, shattering his vision into white stars. Then the parachute deployed, white canopy blossoming against blue sky. 1 down. 7 remaining. But something unexpected occurred. At 2:49 and 35 seconds, a second MiG-29 attempted to engage Viper 1 with an R-27 missile. The shot was wild, desperate, poorly aimed. The missile tracked empty sky, detonating harmlessly 3 miles from any target, but it constituted hostile fire against U.S. forces. The gloves were off completely now. Viper 2 and Viper 3 engaged simultaneously. 2 more AMRAAMs launched. The afternoon sun caught the white smoke trails as missiles accelerated toward their targets. At 2:50 p.m., both missiles found their marks. 2 more MiG-29s erupted in the fireballs. Both pilots ejected. 1 chute deployed successfully. The second pilot went down with his aircraft. First confirmed fatality. The remaining 5 Iranian aircraft broke formation entirely. No coordination, no discipline. Pure survival instinct took over. They scattered in different directions, abandoning any pretense of mission accomplishment. 3 MiGs turned hard west, heading back toward Iranian airspace at maximum speed, afterburners glowing even in daylight. 2 MiGs continued south, attempting to flee toward Omani airspace, desperately hoping for sanctuary. Viper flight didn't pursue the three retreating westbound. They'd achieved air superiority. Mission accomplished. But the two southbound MiGs still presented potential threats. At 2:51 p.m., Viper 4 locked the trailing southbound MiG and fired. The AMRAAM tracked perfectly. Impact, fireball, ejection. Fourth Iranian pilot descending under parachute. The final MiG executed violent evasive maneuvers, split S, barrel roll, terrain masking. The pilot demonstrated genuine skill, better training than his comrades. But skill can't overcome technology gap. Viper 3 achieved firing solution at 2:52 p.m. 1 AMRAAM, one shot. The missile's advanced seeker head tracked through every evasive attempt. Detonation. The last MiGs disintegrated. The pilot attempted ejection, but the aircraft's tumble was too violent. Ejection seat fired, but the trajectory sent him into the vertical stabilizer. Second confirmed fatality. At 2:53 p.m., the engagement terminated. Total duration, 4 minutes, from first missile launch to last aircraft destroyed. Iranian losses, 5 MiG-29s shot down. 3 pilots recovered alive from the water by Iranian rescue helicopters. 2 pilots killed in action. American losses, 0 aircraft, 0 casualties. 5 AMRAAMs expended. Total cost approximately $5 million in munitions to eliminate $150 million worth of Iranian air assets. The USS Abraham Lincoln never altered course. Not a single degree of heading deviation. Not 1 knot of speed reduction. To the Supercarrier, this engagement registered as minor tactical event, recorded in the daily operations log with clinical detachment, but observed the calculated professionalism in American response. Moments after destroying 5 Iranian aircraft, the U.S. Navy transmitted precise GPS coordinates of the 3 surviving pilots to Iranian rescue services via international maritime channels. The message couldn't be clearer: we can annihilate your air force at will, and will still assist in recovering your survivors. That's the difference between a professional military and desperate provocation. As Iranian rescue helicopters scrambled from Bandar Abbas, American intelligence suites had already harvested invaluable signals: every radar frequency, every hard frequency, every Honnich radio transmission, every electronic signature from the MiG-29s. All recorded, analyzed, filed for future exploitation. The strategic implications of this 4-minute engagement will resonate for years throughout the region. For Tehran's propaganda machine, this was catastrophic. The narrative of challenging American naval power evaporated along with the smoke from 5 burning aircraft. For regional allies Saudi Arabia, UAE, Israel, this demonstrated that Washington's security umbrella remains impenetrable. American combat capability isn't declining. It's dominant. For potential adversaries, China, Russia, watching closely, the engagement provided concrete data on American air superiority capabilities in real-world conditions. Within 24 hours, satellite imagery companies released commercial photographs showing wreckage recovery operations in the Persian Gulf. 5 distinct debris fields clearly visible in afternoon sunlight. Tehran attempted damage control through state media. Iranian Air Force successfully defended national airspace against American aggression. Enemy aircraft forced to retreat after sustained resistance. Minor losses to equipment due to mechanical failures. Complete fabrication. But satellite evidence, radio intercepts, and international shipping witnesses all confirmed the truth. Iran sent 8 fighters, 3 returned, 5 destroyed, 2 pilots dead. The Pentagon's official statement came with characteristic understatement. On date, Iranian military aircraft approached USS Abraham Lincoln carrier strike group in international waters. Aircraft exhibited hostile intent and took offensive action. U.S. Navy aircraft responded in self-defense, destroying 5 hostile aircraft. 3 Iranian pilots were recovered by Iranian search and rescue. The carrier strike group sustained no damage and continues normal operations. Oil markets fluctuated briefly on news of the engagement, then stabilized within hours as Lincoln demonstrated uninterrupted freedom of navigation operations. Lloyd's of London Maritime Insurance Assessment. Iranian military aviation capabilities degraded. Threat assessment to commercial shipping reduced. Persian Gulf transit risk lowered. Regional reactions confirmed the strategic shift. UAE announced expanded defense cooperation with U.S. Fifth Fleet, increased intelligence sharing. Saudi Arabia requested additional integrated air defense training with U.S. forces. Bahrain offered extended naval base access to accommodate increased American presence. Qatar, typically cautious about antagonizing Tehran, increased coordination with U.S. Central Command. Iran's neighbors recognize the fundamental truth. Tehran's military isn't as capable as their propaganda claims. When challenged by American forces, the outcome is swift, decisive, overwhelming. But perhaps most significant, the internal impact within Iran itself. Intelligence sources reported heated confrontations within IRGC command. Junior officers questioning leadership. Why did we send them? We lost 5 aircraft and gained nothing except international humiliation. Senior commanders responding, because the supreme leader demanded demonstration of strength. We had no choice. That's the truth Tehran won't publicly acknowledge. They could have launched the attack. They had the aircraft, the pilots, the opportunity. But the cost? 5 fighters destroyed, 2 pilots killed. And for what? The American carrier sailed through anyway. The mission accomplished nothing except demonstrating Iranian military inferiority. Today, USS Abraham Lincoln continues operations throughout the Middle East. She deployed strike packages against ISIS targets in Syria 3 days after this engagement. Business as usual. The 4 Super Hornet pilots who destroyed 5 Iranian aircraft, routine mission. Professional execution. Each received Air Medal for combat action, then returned to normal flight operations. Admiral Hendricks, commanding the strike group, commended for textbook application of rules of engagement and proportional response to hostile action. If you want more analysis of how advanced military technology shapes global power dynamics, subscribe and hit the notification bell. We'll continue bringing you detailed breakdowns of real-world military capabilities and the strategic consequences when adversaries test American resolve. Thanks for watching. Remember, in modern aerial combat, technology and training trump numbers and bravado every single time.